Here is the BP Ultimate Grid for race 2 of the BNTV8s from Taupo. Kane Scott and John McIntyre again off the front row. Jason Bargwanna and championship leader Angus Fogg complete row 2.
We then slot back to the first of the Commodores, Paul Manuel. Next door to him, the man with all the work to do, Craig Baird. Scott McLaughlin. Next door to Andy Booth.
McLaughlin in the wars after race number 1. Andy Knight, the big mover in the race 1, alongside Andrew Anderson. Go back to Eddie Bell, who was also on the move. He starts alongside Dean Perkins.
Then have Simon Richards, and next door to him, Christine Orr, the only lady in the whole field. Martin Short, of course, caught up in turn 1 accident. Next door to him, David Hopper.
Then we go back to Hayden McKenzie and John Penny, who was also in the wars in race number 1. Timmy Edgell, he copped a penalty for turning around John Penny. Matt Lockwood and Nick Ross completes the lineup for race 2. Well, the pressure is building for the top 4 in the championship. Race 2 for the BNTV8s from the Taupo Motorsport Park, on board with John McIntyre. Second place finisher in race number 1 behind Kane Scott. And the championship equation right now, Mark Pedersen, Angus Fogg continues to lead by 42 points over Kane Scott, who now moves into second in the championship. Craig Baird third, 46 down. John McIntyre in fourth, 100 points out of the championship lead.
And going back, we've also got the other championship to think about, which is the Rookie of the Year honours. And at the moment, that's led by Scott McLaughlin, ahead of Martin Short. So Martin Short now 19 points behind after race 1. So a bit of work to do there, but it was interesting watching this footage of the warm-up laps. Angus Fogg went into turn 1 right around the outside. He's just out there calculating how much grip there is. So you can't help but think if he's going to make a move, it's going to be the outside of turn 1, because the more corners he leaves it going to lap 1 and 2, the harder it's going to be to get in front of these guys. So he's got to make his charge. Of course, right behind him is Craig Baird. So, like you said, Jamie, action aplenty about to happen in the first 4 rows.
Well, it is about to erupt here at Taupo, race 2 for the BNTV8s. Angus Fogg did exactly what Mark said in race number 1 from the outside of the 5th row, got through to 4th on the first lap, on board with Kane Scott, the race 1 winner, new lap record holder here at Taupo. John McIntyre, he's going to lay everything on the line for this second race as we go down to the lights. Jason Bargwanna with a flyer off the inside of the second row, and he may sneak up the inside of Kane Scott. Contact!
Yeah, Johnny McIntyre's going to get away with that. He's out wide. Jason Bargwanna is going to lead the field out of turn 1. Now, what's going to happen to 2? Smoke everywhere.
Kane Scott's getting shuffled back. McIntyre back ahead of him. Paul Manuel with a fly. Scott McLaughlin's right in the mix as well in the Super Cheap Holden.
Hold your breath, everybody. They've got to get through turn 4. Turn 5, there's going to be action. Everybody dive down the inside. Andy Booth's right up there.
Yeah, he's gone to the inside of Fogg. There's contact there between the championship leader and Andy Booth.
Oh, Fogg will be thinking, what do I have to do to get through these rounds without too much damage?
What does he have to do to survive?
Mate, look at that. He's on the outside. Andy Booth is going to put his nose right up the inside here. This is going to become a full GM Jag race through 8 and 9.
Eddie Bell was sideways off the exit of turn number 7. Bargwanna leads from Johnny Mack. Paul Manuel in 3rd. Kane Scott 4th. Scott McLaughlin up the 5th. Andy Booth 6th and carrying some front end damage to the front of the Rock FM Holden.
Wow, interesting. Front of Angus Fogg's car smoking a bit. That means the guard has come back on the tyre, so it'll cause a few issues. It won't be anything significant unless the smoke starts trailing for a lot longer than what we've seen. One of the cars further back as well, similar kind of damage.
Craig Baird in behind. Andy Knight was the big mover in race number 1 as we're on board now with Martin Short. Had some dramas in race number 1, got turned around into the first quarter. And what was left of his front splitter went straight through Scott McLaughlin's passenger door window and shattered it, and actually put some glass inside Scott's helmet.
Certainly not ideal, but didn't really seem to affect him much because he finished the race in 7th place. But here we go. This man in front of you is going to be very hard to beat, because lap 4 and 5, if he can manage to maintain that first position and be defensive, Johnny McIntyre is going to come under the attention very quickly of Paul Manuel and, of course, Kane Scott. So, what can Bargs do?
Yeah, Jason Bargwanna with the race lead in the Redco Ford. He's got nothing to lose because he's not in championship contention.
Well, the other thing to take into this equation, Paul Manuel there in 3rd place, 5th place as well, Scott McLaughlin. These guys don't care about the championship. They don't care about anybody contesting the championship. They just want to go get the best results they can. So they're going to mix it up there. So there's so many unknowns in this race at this time.
On board with Kane Scott, so he's going to make a gain again on Angus Fogg. So is John McIntyre, but Craig Baird, more importantly for Foggy, is behind him right now as the rest of the field work their way through on lap number 2 of 10, race 2 for the BNTV8s from Taupo. The drama just continues to build here at the business end of the championship.
So the guys that went into this probably 1st and 2nd, and I don't want to use the word favourites, Angus Fogg on your screen there, Craig Baird, suffered a bit in race 1 and row so far. He's still Fogg gone wide, both on the inside.
Big lock up for Angus Fogg. Craig Baird's going to slip up the inside. I know Foggy wasn't entirely happy with his race pace.
No, but the key to this, Jamie, so to jump in, mate, is going to be where Andy Knight does. He's going to jump in behind that United video car, and he is going to make life awful difficult for Angus Fogg to get back onto the apex.
Great drive from Andy Knight. We know he's had car speed over the weekend, but with an engine change penalty going in, is all Fogg and Baird make contact. Knight's going to slip by both of them. Fogg down through the grass.
Craig's just going to run Knight out of room there, entitled to do that. Angus Fogg gave him a bit of a kiss on the way in. Of course, now these two guys, Andy Knight's on the inside, so Foggy, all of a sudden, and everybody behind them is getting wide. That's because of the dust and debris thrown up by the Angus Fogg car.
Andy Anderson sideways off the final corner. So Andy Knight started the first race from the rear of the field after that engine penalty. He mowed his way through inside the top 10. So he's got serious pace. There's a couple of contenders that aren't really in the championship mix, sort of acting as spoilers here for the second race.
We alluded to that a couple of laps ago. These guys just don't care about the championship. They're out there to get maximum exposure they can. So the likes of Johnny McIntyre and Kane Scott, they'll be taking that into equation, because any one of these guys, Jason Bargwanna, Paul Manuel in the mix there as well. Here we go, a replay.
Here's the peak antifreeze replay. So turn in, Foggy, contact on the back of Baird. Knight slipped up the inside. Foggy took to the grass. Baird's just sort of moved Andy Knight over to try and get that line back down into turn number 13 and 14.
Well, Johnny McIntyre is actually coming under the pressure now of Paul Manuel. Now, slowing, but we've seen this before from Johnny McIntyre time and time again. Jamie, they engineer that car lap 4, 5 and lap 6 for it to come on strong. They sacrifice a little bit of speed to begin with. I can't help but think we're going to see the same again.
Just on the previous lap, Mark, up at the hairpin turn 7, Johnny actually locked up the rear brakes and just ran offline, probably half a car length, width. So he may not have entirely happy car balance at this point of this early stages of this race. And Bargwanna just sort of starting to sneak away a little bit, but there's still not a lot in it.
There's not, but what he's doing, he's allowing the Paul Manuel and the Scott McLaughlins to get into this battle. Now, we saw from race 1 that Holden Commodore of Paul Manuel, it lasted the whole race. Strange as that sounds, we've normally seen the Commodore start dropping off towards 8, 9 and 10 laps, but strong, whatever they're doing, that team is certainly working for them. So if he can stay there, he is going to become a major threat.
For the Holden fans, we've got 3 Holdens inside the top 6, up against 3 Fords on board with Kane Scott, chasing down Paul Manuel. Kane Scott, the race 1 winner, set a new lap record on his way to victory, and he's closed the championship gap. Moved into second in the points, with Angus Fogg actually extending his points. But at the moment, he is sacrificing some positions here, having not got the greatest of starts at the beginning of race number 2.
Wow, you said after race 1 he'd extended the lead. With Kane Scott currently in 4th place in this race here, the lead will be down to 20-odd points, so straight away it's already been halved. So it just proves how crucial it is for Angus to get his way back up past Andy Knight, Craig Baird for that matter, and minimise the points lost to these guys in the picture now.
Kane Scott working over Paul Manuel. I can tell you that Angus Fogg has lost a position to Andy Knight and is back in the 9th position for the championship leader, with Craig Baird a couple of spots ahead of him. So that's going to change the points. Here's Scott McLaughlin chasing down Kane Scott, the 2 Racing Projects teammates, 1 in a Ford, 1 in a Holden. On board with McLaughlin down through to the carousel. So there's Baird and Knight, both ahead of Angus Fogg in the background. A couple of those front runners were pretty lucky to get away with that sort of opening few corners skirmish, Mark.
Yeah, they certainly were, but that's a good thing about this Taupo. It causes so much dramatic racing, because turn 1, 2 and 3 you can go 4 or 5 abreast, as we saw at the start, but at some point in the corner they all got to get back down to single file, because that's all there is, and always all jostling for that respect as who's going to get the racing line. And we saw cars going left, right and centre, but at the moment championship points as they stand in current track position, Angus Fogg leading, only 24 points behind him is Kane Scott. Johnny McIntyre started this race 100 points behind Angus Fogg. At this moment he's only 69 points, so 69 points between 1st and 4th in the championship.
It continues to close up. Australian Jason Bargwanna looking for the victory. He's had 1 win earlier on in the season. Of course, didn't contest Manfield. He is still in the top 10 in points. So Bargwanna, he'll be looking for his 2nd victory of the championship. On board with Scott McLaughlin, with Kane Scott just up ahead. Here's Bargwanna with about a half a second advantage over John McIntyre, whose car looks to be a little bit stronger as we're on the halfway point of the second race for the BNC V8s. Don't go away, we'll be back with more action from Taupo on the other side of this. McIntyre starting to look strong at the halfway point of race 2 for the BNTV8. Jason Bargwanna, your race leader in the Repco Ford. The tallies for those stalking the Australian.
The problem Jason Bargwanna has got is that car behind him, and the main reason being Johnny McIntyre has dropped Paul Manuel. So now Johnny doesn't have to be defensive. He can just be the aggressor in this battle we've seen on the screen. We said from lap 4 we expect that car to come on strong. That's exactly what happened. I think it's just a matter of time before he finds his way around Jason Bargwanna. Jason defensive mode. You can see the lines he's driving. They're not natural lines anymore. He's been defensive. He's probably engineered that car to come on strong very early in the race. Going to conservation mode from lap 6 onwards. Johnny's car's coming on strong. So we have the best of both battles.
Fastest lap of the race, a 1:36.5, set by Scott McLaughlin on the previous lap. So we know the Super G Holden's got pace. And it was an interesting comment into race number 1. Kane Scott's only complaint was parity. What are you talking about? Said my teammates, Holden's too fast.
He's a young, fast kid, that's for sure, and he has a very good future in front of him.
So we're on board with Scott McLaughlin, 17 years of age, expat Kiwi, now based on the Gold Coast in Australia. Building up to his 2nd season in the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Development Series, racing for the Stone Brothers. Bargwanna with a big flash of flame down through turn number 11. Last lap a 37.1 for Bargwanna, a 36.9 for Johnny Mack. Kane Scott just unable to do anything about Paul Manuel right now.
Yeah, he's going to make comment. Given the speed of Kane's car in qualifying, he has no answer for Paul Manuel in front of him. And we saw him as he coming on the back straight there through turn 11. The car was sideways on the throttle application. So